Okay, it's so weird to be filming again because I have not filmed in so long. But hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie. And if you saw my last video, then you might know why I stopped filming for a little bit. And reason being is because I found out I'm pregnant. If you have not seen my last video, it was me finding out I'm pregnant. And the second that I turned 6 weeks, I got so sick, and that was nothing like my first pregnancy. My first pregnancy with my daughter, I was a little bit sick and a little bit fatigued, but nothing compared to this. So I've been so sick, I could hardly get out of bed. I can't keep anything down. I was throwing up like 3 or 4 times a day. It has been miserable, honestly. But I figured that I would come back. Now that I'm starting to feel a little bit better, I feel like I could vlog again. Because that's mainly what I like to do on my channel, is like more lifestyle motherhood type vlogs. And my lifestyle would have been like me moving from the bed to the couch and like trying to survive with my 2-year-old. But I'm doing better now, so I figured I could get back into the swing of things. And I really wanted to document this pregnancy and the baby as a newborn and all of that, because I remember not doing it with my first baby and I regret it. But if I'm gonna be 100% honest, I've been like in such a negative like rut lately almost, because I just like, and I know that it's just like a little phase that I'm in right now because of this pregnancy, but it's just like so hard. I have no motivation for anything. I don't want to cook, I don't want to clean, like all I want to do is just like lay down all the time. And it's been really hard, I think, like mentally, and I'm trying to still get up and get out of the house, but it's just been like a struggle, and I know I need to get out of it. And so here we are. We're starting with this. I cleaned my house yesterday a little bit, not completely, but did dishes and stuff like that. So I'm trying to like get back into a good place again. But anyways, I took detailed notes through my first trimester. I'm officially out of my first trimester, and I'm feeling a lot better now that I am. I'm not 100% still. The evenings I get pretty sick, but I'm doing so much better than I was doing. So I figured I'd kind of just like go through like each week and go from there. I found out that I was pregnant really early. I was 3 weeks and 3 days, so I had no symptoms. Like I had nothing that I was like, oh, I might be pregnant. Like there's no feeling like that. I was actually in complete shock, if you guys saw my video, that I was pregnant, because I didn't think I was. So yeah, I had no clue that I was pregnant. Around week 4, that's when I started peeing more frequently. Like I'd have to get up in the middle of the night to go pee, which is not normal for me. And I remember that with my second pregnancy too. This might be confusing for some people. I only have one child. She's 2 years old. I got pregnant again and went 11 weeks without pregnancy before I found out that it was a blighted ovum. I have a whole video about my miscarriage. I'll link it in the description of this video if you guys want to watch that. But yeah, like that pregnancy was more similar to this one. Like I was super sick with that pregnancy, and I remember having to frequently pee with that one too. So yeah, and I was a little more tired than usual, and I had a couple cravings at 4 weeks. Mediterranean food was one of them, which that's like so out there for me, like hummus and like the falafels and stuff. I was craving those, which is so weird for me because that's not normally something that I would crave. But yeah, those were like my first symptoms, and I started feeling those around 4 weeks. At 5 weeks I started having cramping, which scared me a little bit because obviously after my second pregnancy I was like more on edge and stressed with this pregnancy, worried that something was going to happen. But my doctor said that cramping is normal, like as long as it's nothing super, like she said as long as it doesn't knock me on my rear, then I should be fine. But light cramping is normal. It's just your womb expanding, prepping to grow the baby. And I had a little bit of nausea at 5 weeks, but not like, a little bit of nausea, not super bad. Week 6 hit, and that's when I started getting super sick. That's when I started throwing up. So I had nausea and vomiting. I was super tired. I was struggling with constipation, which is TMI, but like I have never struggled with that before. And I talked to my doctor, and my doctor's like, oh yeah, that's like a normal thing from pregnancy. She explained it to me. I looked it up on Google too, but I was just like, why is that a thing? So I was struggling with that. And my acne got so bad, like I was breaking out so bad. Yeah. Week 7 hit. Once again, I was still nauseous, still vomiting. It was mainly in the evenings, but I would still like throw up multiple times a day. And I had pain in my ribs when I was waking up, which was something that I thought was so weird. But once again, like I talked to my doctor about all of these things because I was like, I feel like I'm newly pregnant again because I've never been through any of this. And she was like, oh yeah, that's normal. And then she'd explain it to me, and then the next thing I'd ask, she's like, oh yeah, that's normal. And then she'd explain it to me, and I'm like, why is this normal? Who came up with this? Like, I've been struggling through this first trimester, and I'm like praying that in my second trimester I'm gonna get like that second wind of like energy and the need to like clean my house, or what do they call nesting. Like, I am so over this, and I feel so bad for my husband too because he's also very over it. I've not been cooking for him or cleaning or anything, and he's been helping a lot with my daughter. But yeah, week 8, so that was probably the worst week, was week 8. And I remember with my first pregnancy with my daughter, that was the only week that I had morning sickness. For 4 days, I woke up, I'd throw up, I'd wake up, I'd feel sick, I'd throw up, and then I'd be fine after that. But at week 8, that was like the only time that I had morning sickness. This has not been the same. But yeah, I was super sick. I started getting heartburn. They started me on Zoloft, which I was super skeptical about because I was reading studies that like, so I tried vitamin B6 and Unisum, which is what a lot of doctors recommended. It did not help me at all, and it just made me so tired. So I stopped taking that, and then they prescribed me another medicine, but my insurance didn't cover it. It was like $400 or something ridiculous. So I called them and was like, hey, can you give me something else? And they're like, yeah, we'll get you Zoloft. And Zoloft is technically meant for cancer patients who are struggling with nausea. And it did help me a little bit, but I was so skeptical to take it. And my husband said, he's like, if it was that bad, then my doctor would not prescribe it to me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I tried to take it as little as possible, but I had to start taking it around 8 weeks because I needed to be able to keep food down, because I had lost 8 pounds up to this point since like the beginning of my pregnancy to then I had lost 8 pounds. And I was like, I need to be able to keep food down because it's worse for the baby for me to not be eating or drinking anything than for me to be taking the Zoloft. Is it Zoloft? I'm calling that right? Yeah. So I started on that. I've only taken it a couple of times, like when I really feel like I need to, but I took it in the beginning, like around 8 weeks, so that I could get my eating under control. And once I got my eating under control and I always kept food in my stomach, that helped me the most. And if you're pregnant and struggling with morning sickness, like that's my #1 tip, is make sure that you're keeping something in your stomach at all times. I'm like out of breath. And I know it sucks. Like for me personally, the thought of eating sounded horrible. Nothing sounded good. I had food aversions to literally everything. So I would just keep like a box of Cheerios next to my nightstand. I would constantly try to like eat like a piece of toast or crackers, or I'd eat oatmeal. Like super dry carbs were the only things that I could really stomach actually sitting down to eat. But I always would make sure that I had something in my stomach, and then the second that I would go like a couple hours without eating, that's when I'd get super sick again. I would be laying in bed regretting it, and then I'd throw up. So that's my #1 tip, is constantly keep food in your stomach. Even though you don't want to, that's a better alternative than being super miserable, throwing up, and all of that. I was super exhausted, a hard time sleeping. Yeah, I was starting to have a hard time sleeping, and I was getting vivid nightmares, which I don't know if that's a pregnancy thing. I was reading that it could be, but like I've always had kind of vivid dreams, but I've never really been one to have nightmares, and I would wake up from these nightmares like in a panic, like it was real. It was so weird. So I don't know if that's a pregnancy thing, but I put it on here because that's like new for me since being pregnant. So let me know in the comments if you've ever had that, because it's kind of been freaking me out a little bit. And I would like wake up and I couldn't fall back asleep. That's also not normal for me, but I think because I was not doing anything all day and I was napping during the day, that it was so much harder for me to sleep at night. So that's my best guess with that. And then this is when I started at week 9, is when I started getting round ligament pain and pain in my lower back. So like I could legit feel my hips spreading apart when I would walk, and it hurt so bad, and I still am feeling that. Like now that I'm in my second trimester, I feel like it's almost getting worse for me because I'm having like lower, like my lower abdomen, I'm having cramping. I could feel my hips spreading and my lower back has been hurting. And I just don't remember it being this way with my first pregnancy. I really don't. So I'm like, maybe I did feel it a little bit, but I just remember my first pregnancy, my third trimester was the worst. Like the last 6 weeks, I was just like in pain, so tired, like couldn't sleep because I was in so much pain. Like, but that was all. Like my first 2 trimesters were easy without pregnancy. Maybe the third one will be easy with this one, who knows. But yeah, that's when that started, is around week 9 for me. Week 10, I was still sick, throwing up. I was struggling with constipation a lot at this point, and my doctor did say that I could take Marilax, and she told me I could take that multiple times a day if I wanted. And then she also recommended like implementing more fiber into my diet. And so a lot of you guys know I use Arbonne supplements, and there's a fiber boost powder in there that has soluble and insoluble fiber. So she was like, oh yeah, that's great, start adding that into your diet. So I'm trying to drink more smoothies and get like a little bit of a better, like a healthier diet, because like I said, all I've been eating is dry carbs. So I'm like, if I can get some fruits and vegetables in a smoothie along with this fiber powder, that could help. So I started doing that, and it has definitely helped. But yeah, I was struggling with that a lot, and I was like so freaking frustrating because like I said, never struggled with that before. And I just had horrid heartburn at this point, and I still get heartburn. I keep Tums next to my nightstand. Tums are one of the only medicines that I don't feel super guilty taking, because if I like look into the ingredients, there's not really much to them, but they help a ton, so I will take Tums. But that's helped a lot with my heartburn and my nipples. TMI again, but if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you're pregnant, or you're gonna be pregnant, or you're a woman, so like it's okay for me to talk about these things. But my nipples have been so sensitive, to the point where like if I'm taking a shower and the stream like shower hits it, it hurts so bad. And once again, I'm assuming that's pregnancy. They're also starting to get darker and stuff. So yeah, that started happening too. It's been so fun. Like my husband will mess with me, and I like get so mad at him because I'm like, just don't touch. Week 11, I started getting really bad headaches, which once again my doctor said that's normal during pregnancy because something about your blood volume, I don't know. I haven't taken anything for them. She said I could take Tylenol if they get really bad, but there's like certain studies that are showing that you shouldn't take Tylenol now, and then you definitely can't take ibuprofen when you're pregnant. But yeah, I've just been living through them. She also said that I should probably be drinking more water and staying hydrated. She said that would help with a lot of these problems. And I do drink water throughout the day. I constantly keep a cup with me, but I know that I probably should be drinking more. So I'm working on that too. Week 12, exhaustion, shortness of breath, I started to get around week 12, where like I'd have moments where it's hard for me to like catch my breath. And then like I just would be out of breath more. Like from talking right now, I'm starting to get out of breath just from having a conversation with a camera. So that started happening. I was still sick at week 12, and I started to get insomnia. So like I would go to bed at night and I would not be able to fall asleep. Like I would lay there awake, and this is actually pretty normal for me, but I was reading that it's a normal pregnancy thing too, but like I just lay in bed at night and my mind just won't stop, and I just cannot fall asleep. No matter how tired I am, I just cannot sleep. Week 13, I started feeling better. That's the week that I started feeling a lot better. Like I would get up in the day, I would eat right away, and I would keep up on my eating. And I still am not 100%. Like in the evenings, I'll start to get sick. If I stop, like if I go too long without eating, I start to get sick. I'm doing better, but I'm not 100% still. But in comparison to how I was feeling around week 8, I'm doing a lot better. I was still getting headaches, and I was still having constipation and heartburn issues, but that's all clear up now. I'm actually 16 weeks now. I meant to film this a couple weeks ago, and like I said, I'm doing better now. My first trimester was terrible, but I'm doing better now that I'm in my second trimester, and I'm really hoping. I had a lot of people message me on like Instagram and stuff. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I post a lot like behind the scenes on my stories and stuff there, so you make sure to follow me. It's Katie Powell _8 is my Instagram. So you can definitely go follow me on there. I love to like message people on there about literally everything. But I had a few people message me and say that their morning sickness kind of let up and they started feeling a lot better and getting more energy around 20 weeks. So I'm really hoping for that for myself. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in this video was my little miscarriage scare situation. So I think I want to say it was like 9 weeks when this happened, but I started bleeding, and with my first and my second pregnancy I had no bleeding, not even any spotting, nothing. And my second pregnancy was a miscarriage, so like the fact that I didn't even have anything with that, I was so scared. I was like, what is happening? And it wasn't just a little bit of spotting, because I heard that spotting was normal, so I wasn't going to freak out about that. This was like a gush of blood. I soaked through my underwear, I soaked through my pants, like it was a lot of blood. And I started freaking out. And I didn't have any cramping, I didn't have any back pain, none of that. But I just got home from the store, put Paige down for a nap, and went to take a shower and realized that I soaked through everything and I was bleeding. And so I started panicking, of course, like anyone would. I called my doctor's office and they were like asking me a bunch of questions and I would answer them all, and that's when she started asking like if I was having cramping or back pain or anything, and I said no to all of that, and she's like, well, that's a good thing, but she said the amount of blood is what's scaring them. So they wanted me to come in. Unfortunately, because of where I live, my doctor's office is 3.5 hours away. And so I was like, I'm not gonna make it to you guys in time before you close. And she's like, okay, then we want you to go to the emergency room where you live, just so we could rule out miscarriage. And I was completely fine with that, because I was like, I would love to rule out miscarriage too. Like, I was so panicked, especially given the situation with my second pregnancy. And so they're like, yeah, go to the emergency room, have them do an ultrasound, let them know that we sent you, all of that. Luckily, my emergency room was super slow at the time, so I got in. They got me in for an ultrasound, and the lady was so nice. She was like, oh, I found the baby, and she's like, and there's the heartbeat, and she showed me like the little heart. And that was like the biggest like feeling of relief that came over me, because I like was so scared. Anyways, they did a bunch of like blood work. They kept me for a little bit to like monitor the baby and everything. Everything was good. Once I left, I had them send over all that information, because the hospital where I live, like that is why I am choosing to go 3.5 hours away, because the hospital where I live in a very small town, so we have a small hospital that has a lot of problems. Anyways, I had them send over all that information to my doctor's office. My doctor called me a couple days later, and she just let me know that she thinks it's a hematoma, which is what they were saying in the emergency room. The doctor that I talked to had no clue what he was talking about, though. I could tell that he went on Google and typed in hemorrhage, or like he told me it was a hemorrhage or a hematoma, but he like printed out this paper on what a pregnancy like hemorrhage is and like gave it to me, and it was literally just like something that he got off of Google, I could tell. And he was like, it's a hemorrhage and it should like clear up itself. Like, okay, so the amount of bleeding is normal. And he's like, yeah, it should just heal itself. And I was like, am I going to continue to bleed? And he's like, yeah, it should just heal itself. And then like every single question I would ask, he would literally just be like, yeah, it should heal itself. And I know he's an ER doctor, not an OBGYN, so that's why I was kind of just like, okay, you clearly don't know anything. So can you send all this information to my doctor? My doctor called me and she let me know that it was a hematoma. She said based off the size, they weren't overly concerned about it. She said it should heal itself, which I'm pretty sure it has at this point because my bleeding has stopped. She told me that bleeding is normal. So she said that's the #1 cause of bleeding for pregnant women during the first and second trimester. And she was like, bleeding during pregnancy is never a good thing, but she said a hematoma should just heal itself and it shouldn't cause any problems with the baby. I asked about what it was and she said, it still doesn't make sense to me, but I think it's something about like the placenta coming off the uterine wall and blood pooling right there or something, and then it just comes out. I don't know. It still doesn't make sense to me 100%, but I had them check it at my last doctor's appointment and they couldn't see it. So hopefully it has healed itself. And she said, yeah, she said like that's the #1 cause of bleeding during pregnancy. So anyways, I figured I'd share that story on here too, just in case anyone else is going through it. When I shared it on Instagram, I had so many people message me and tell me like that they had the same thing happen to them. So that put me at ease a little bit, knowing that it's normal. I continued to bleed. It was spotting after that though. So like the initial was like a lot of blood. After that, I continued to spot for about 2 weeks on and off. So, and my doctor did tell me that that was normal. So anyways, that is my first trimester update with this pregnancy. It has been a lot. I'm struggling through it, like I said, but I'm getting through it. And I know, like I keep telling my husband, I was like, yes, this sucks, but the baby is so worth it. And it's like short-term misery for long-term love. Like, it's so worth it to me. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please share any of your stories in the comments. I love to talk to you guys in the comments. And I will see you in my next video. It'll probably go back to like normal vlogs and stuff, hopefully. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos, and I will see you in my next one.